And we're live! Hello. Thank you guys. First of all, before I even get into the introduction, thank you guys so much for waiting. Live shows can be really difficult to set up sometimes, but we are here and we are ready to discuss City of Fallen Angels by Cassandra Clare. If you did not know, I have to go through the spiel every time I start these live shows. I'm hosting a read-along for all of the books in the Shadowhunter Chronicles. So if you are interested in rereading some books or reading them for the first time, all the information you need about this read-along is in the description of this live show. Also in the description of this live show are links to check out all of my lovely co-hosts today. So thank you guys so much for joining me and for clearing your time to be a part of this discussion, because I love talking about these books with you. So I think we're going to start by going down the line, and we are going to just introduce ourselves and our channels and whatnot, and then we will go into how many times we've read the book, if it's our first time or if it's a multiple reread. And then we are also going to just give some non-spoilery thoughts, because this will be a mostly spoiler-filled discussion. So if you don't know, I'm Emma from emmmabooks. And this is my 9th time reading City of Fallen Angels. And I feel like with City of Fallen Angels, I enjoy it more every single time I read it. It used to be one of my least favorite, and because I just didn't enjoy it as much, but now it's just not my favorite by default of me liking all the other books more. But yeah, I really enjoy City of Fallen Angels, and I've gained greater appreciation of it over the years through all my rereads. So if Megan wants to go next.
Hi, I'm Megan. My YouTube is Bookish Megan, and this is my first time reading City of Fallen Angels. Yay. This is my first time reading the whole series.
Oh my god, I'm gonna cry.
I've read City of Bones I think 3 times, but I could never get into it. And then this read-along came along, and I was like, okay, this is the time to read it. If I'm never gonna read it, I just have to. Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was like a filler book for the rest of the 2 books, if that makes any sense. But I enjoyed it. I love Jace. That's all. This book made me love him more.
Mm-hmm. Kayla?
Okay. Hey guys, I'm Kayla. I guess my YouTube is in the description. It's my music channel, so feel free to check it out if you want to. But this is my 2nd time reading the book, and I think I enjoyed it a lot more this time, because last time around I didn't read them in publication order, so I read 1 through 5 of Mortal Instruments, and then the Infernal Devices, and then went back and finished it. So I think having read the Infernal Devices and just recently Clockwork Angel, reading it gave me more perspective. So I definitely enjoyed it more this time around.
And finally, Christina.
Yes, I'm Christina, and I have a booktube channel that's called Proud Bookline, but my Instagram is probably more known, so that's Proud Bookline as well. And this is my first time rereading it, and like Kayla said, I read the Clockwork Angel just before, and it gives a whole new perspective. Mm-hmm. But I agree with Megan as well. It kind of feels like a filler book, and it's not my favorite, but it's not something that I hate and just want to get through, which it was, because I read 1 to 5, and then same as Kayla. So it was just read, and then it was an awkward wait of 3 weeks because I had to order the books.
Yeah. My one thing is, because I also used to think it was a filler book, and then over the years I realized that I feel like one of the things that sets City of Fallen Angels apart from the rest of the books is that the main plot lines of City of Fallen Angels are wrapped up at the end of the book. It's just that last ending that continues, whereas City of Bones, you have the Mortal Cup, which transfers into book 2 with Valentine looking for the Mortal Sword. I feel like all of the books carry on from one another, and City of Fallen Angels, other than that last epilogue, everything that happens in that book with the Church of Talto and all that stuff is wrapped up. So it's easier for us to move past. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I feel makes it contribute to a filler book, because it's not something that progresses over the series. It sort of ends with City of Fallen Angels. So yeah, just like one thing I wanted to throw out there. So just as like a note for like the hosts and the commenters, we keep this at like City of Fallen Angels, so no connections to books that we haven't read in the readathon yet. So yeah, we can talk about City of Bones, City of Ashes, City of Glass, and City of Fallen Angels, and we can talk about any connections to Clockwork Angel because we already talked about that. But just like no future books. So yeah, if you guys in the comments have any questions that you would like us to discuss, or if you have any points that you want to bring up, we'd love to discuss them with you. Or if any of my lovely co-hosts have like a burning topic that they want to talk about right now, I would love to know what it is. One thing that I always loved about City of Fallen Angels is that I feel like we get so much more of a focus on Simon than we do in the first two books.
Yes.
Or the first three books. So like, how do you guys feel about like learning more about like Simon's like his home life and his transformation as a vampire and whatnot? Like, what are your thoughts on Simon after City of Fallen Angels?
I know for me, I didn't really care for Simon in the first three books, but as I was reading this one, I understood him and I felt bad for not liking him.
Mm-hmm.
And I just showed a completely different side of him.
I totally agree. I wasn't a huge fan of Simon in the beginning three books, but it was the last three that really solidified my love for him. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, not like spoilers, but knowing like where Simon goes from here, I think it was really like about time that we got to learn more about him, and because I think he's kind of underappreciated in the first three books. So I think it was really cool to get to learn about his home life and his problems and how he's dealing with, you know, being a vampire. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, his backstory really makes him a whole character. Before we only kind of got to see him being annoying, at least if you shift Jason and Clary. It just was like, what are you doing here? You're ruining this right now?
Yeah.
Knowing everything now it makes him a better character, and then as the book progresses, like the series, you just love him even more. So
Yeah, definitely. And I also like how like we learn more about Simon's mom in this book too, and it introduces like a really interesting family dynamic, because most of the family conflict we've had so far in the Mortal Instruments is so based on Jason Clary. And it was like interesting to have like that feeling of like losing your family and being disconnected from your family to exist within a different character, and it also take place in, you know, the merging of like the mundane world and like the Shadowhunter world, because his mom like just cannot accept that he's a vampire and she really rejects him for it. So I always thought that was a really interesting perspective because it's so different from what we've seen so far in the books. We have a question. Thoughts on the relationship of Jace and Simon?
I think it's going to be a cute bromance. I mean, I don't know what happens, but I think it's going to be like a bromance.
Yeah, Jace and Simon are really cute. I think their interactions in this book are so funny. Like one of my most vivid memories of this book is when they're food shopping together, and it's just like Jace is being just like so aloof and like just doesn't care about anything, and Simon is just like, I feel like just every time he's with Jace in the book, he just like has this look on his face like, what are you doing? Like, why are you like this? So yeah, I love the fact that like they get to grow closer in this book, since in the other books they're just like at each other's throats most of the time. So like they really do start to develop a relationship outside of just both having some connection to Clary.
Mm-hmm. The mango scene got me. I thought that was so funny.
yes,
It's always so good.
I think there was something Simon said about, he was noticing that Jace was like looking tired and worn down, and like he said, I think it's weird that I've known him long enough to notice these subtle changes in his appearance. And I was like,
It's adorable. I really love them together. Let's see. How about thoughts on Jordan and Simon? We could talk about Jordan because he's like a totally new character in this book.
I thought he was going to turn into like a villain at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, he kind of is, but yeah. I'm excited to see where that storyline goes with him and Maya.
I've been really conflicted on Jordan because, like, you know, we meet him as who he is now, but we get information about who he was before. And so I'm always really conflicted because, like, you know, I like to believe that people can change and I like to see the best in people. But it's also really hard to completely separate him from the things that he's done in the past to Maya. And so I feel like this reread, continuing on with the series and like getting to know Jordan more, is going to be really interesting, because sometimes, like, I like who he is, but like he's also who he was before. And so I think it's difficult to, like, for me at least, to fully be like, I love Jordan, he's a great guy, he's super caring, because like there's been some issues in the past with him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Christina or Kayla, how do you guys feel?
Well, first, it had been a couple years since I read the book the last time. So when we meet this like new singer in the band, Kyle, I was like, wait, who is this? And then there's like little hints later. I was like, oh, because I'm like mushing up the timeline in my head. But yeah, I agree with you, Emma, that there's kind of mixed feelings about him, because you want to see him as he is now, but like just hearing from Maya like about his past, it's kind of hard too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think the one I didn't really realize before, but that he actually shows Simon just so he could get close to Maya.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of irks me, because I mean, that shows that he is still kind of obsessed with Maya.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps this isn't like the right way to go around it when it comes to actually like talking to each other. And yeah, it's really hard to separate him from his past, because like we have a past for a reason, and even if we're able to change from that, it's still in our past. So
yeah,
it's hard.
He's definitely still very possessive, because I remember the whole reason that like Maya finds out that Jordan is like friends with Simon now is because Jordan shoved the flyer under the police door to get her to go there to find out about Isabel. Mm-hmm. So like he's intent, and you know, he like gives Simon crap for like dating the two of them because he like doesn't want Maya to be hurt, but he's also like, that's not really his place. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I definitely agree. He's still a little obsessed and possessive with her, and like doesn't go about things in the right way, and it like causes more problems than there needs to be. Let's see. Okay, we could talk about the whole Simon, Maya, and Izzy situation, because there are some hot buttons on this topic in the community. So I'm so curious on your thoughts.
I know for me, I never really understood Maya. Like, she's just one of those characters that in my mind I just kind of like jumped over. But I like Izzy and Simon. I think they're so cute, especially at the end when Izzy comes to the realization that she loves Simon and that she doesn't really want anyone else. Mm-hmm. I thought that was super cute.
Yeah, I love at the end when like she I forget what he says, that like he didn't want to burden her with his problems, which is why he didn't tell her what was going on. And she's just like, you dumbass. Like she runs to him and like, I think it's from Clary's perspective. And she's like, I hear her whispering something that sounds like cursing. And she's just like hugging him and cursing him out at the same time. Because he's like, you're so dumb. I care about you.
That was so cute.
It's so adorable.
Yes. I mean, Sizzy is like one of my OTPs, so the whole time I'm just kind of like, okay, Maya's nice and all, but let's move on.
Yeah. I feel like I've always seen Maya and Simon to not have like a super huge romantic connection, because even when Simon and Maya are sort of making up, like Simon's listing off all the things that like he liked about Maya and the things that they did together, and she's like, that's what friends do. So I think Maya definitely always had greater feelings for Simon than he had for her. So I think it was always easy for me to be like, Izzy's the clear choice, because I felt like their romantic relationship wasn't developed to the same level.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've always been a sissy shipper as well, but I've rereading it, I've been annoyed with like how Simon acts, because that's not cool.
Yeah.
I know that he was probably like first time ever having two girls. Even like he wouldn't even have gotten Clary, like one girl. That would have been way more than he could probably handle.
Mhm.
But still, you don't act that way. Like even if they just had a friendship bond that Maya clearly felt something more for, you don't act like that. At least you don't try to act like that. And he probably tried his best, but it's not shown as clear.
Yeah, I think I seem to have like the unpopular opinion regarding this because like, you know, both people never agreed to be exclusive. And so I'm like, you know, I've been on both sides of this situation, which is why I feel I can like have this opinion where I'm like, if you don't agree it's exclusive, like, yeah, like it's not nice to do that to other people. But like, you know, if you aren't exclusively dating, like you do have the green light to see other people. It's just like, I personally wouldn't do that. And like, I think that normally Simon wouldn't do that. He just didn't know how to like do that. But the thing that like gets me mad about like this discussion in the community is like everyone misses that the point is not that like, or at least Isabel. I mean, we don't really get to see Maya's view on it because she's more mad about Jordan. But Izzy, like Simon is like, I didn't lie. We never said we were exclusive. And which he says to Maya, and then he says to Isabel, neither did we. And we know you. And I know you were dating other people. And so like Isabel was also seeing other people too. So like if we're going to be mad at Simon for cheating, we also have to be mad at Isabel. The whole issue and the reason that Isabel is upset is because it's people that she knows and that you know, Maya is her friend. And so I think like it's just important to recognize like when we're talking about this that like the issue to the characters was never Simon like lying to them about like seeing other people because they were also doing that. It was the fact that like it was Isabel's friend, and that's why she's personally upset. So that's just like my perspective on it. I get why everyone's like upset at them, but I'm like, if you're upset at Simon, we also got to be equally as upset about Isabel. And I think just like the shittier thing on Simon's part is that he was seeing like her friend and didn't. Yeah. But I mean, I totally agree. Like with everyone, like this shouldn't have happened. Like it was just like so unnecessary and dumb. And like Simon should have either made a decision or made it clear that like he was seeing other people.
Yeah.
Yes. I feel like he's just the hormonal teenage boy. It's like, oh, there's two girls that like me, and he's like soaking it all up.
Yeah. And he also like didn't want to hurt either of them, which like I get. But like it's like that doesn't mean that he like he went about it the right way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's see the other questions. And if you guys are looking on the chat as well, you can check out if you have any questions that you guys are interested in. A lot of people are asking about Camille. So how do you guys feel about Camille?
I mean, I don't really have opinions on her. I just kind of think of her as like a little drama queen. But that's about it.
I think for me it was interesting because I had never read these books in publication order before. So like Clockwork Angel comes out before City of Fallen Angels. So like we meet Camille there first. And so I thought it was really interesting to see how similar yet different she is in Clockwork Angel and in City of Fallen Angels. Because I've always just like gone right through the Mortal Instruments and then read Clockwork Angel later. So it was really interesting to have like the same character, like 200 years of growth later, like one right next to the other. I think she's a really interesting villain though. Like I dislike her so much and I just want her to like stop messing with my children's lives. But she's just like, I love to hate her. You know what I mean? I love getting angry when she's like doing anything.
And I think that was my problem because I decided to read them I decided to read Mortal Instruments first before I take on the Infernal Devices. So I don't have much like context on her in Clockwork Angel.
Oh, I'd be so interested to know what you think of her after reading Clockwork Angel. Kaylee and Christina, I think you both have also read Clockwork Angel. So like how do you feel about Camille in City of Fallen Angels?
I don't know if you watched The Vampire Diaries, but she reminds me of Catherine a lot.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So, like, in The Vampire Diaries, you also get to see, like, throwbacks from when Catherine was, like, not a vampire yet, and, like, reminds me of the growth kind of similarly. But yeah, it's really interesting, and she's such a complex character. There's so much like heartbreak, but also like building herself up again, and trusting people and not trusting people, and she's messing with everybody at the same time, and it's so frustrating.
Yeah, I thought it was cool, like, having read Clockwork Angel just before this, to have a little bit of her backstory going into it. I was like, oh, we just met her. But I think it's just cool, the concept of the villain who's, like, been alive forever and has been through all sorts of different conflicts. And I like getting that kind of perspective.
Yeah, she's such a good antagonist. We got a really good question here that I love. Who's worse, the Seelie Queen or Camille? My given is like the Seelie Queen. Like, she is like the devil incarnate. Like, she is just like, I feel like Camille is like a little like bee that just keeps stinging you every 2 seconds. So it's like painful and really annoying. But the Seelie Queen is like a vulture that is going to like literally tear your heart out with her hands or claws. So I think Camille definitely like causes a lot of problems. But the Seelie Queen is like, if the Seelie Queen and Camille were on like separate ends of an alley and I was in the middle, like I would walk towards Camille.
I think that the Seelie Queen's probably worse later on in the series. But from what I've read, I think it was City of Ashes where she made Jace and Clary kiss.
Yeah.
And that got me. I just because that's when I thought they were brother and sister. And they made them kiss in front of everyone. And that's just embarrassing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the Seelie Queen is more like, she knows how to like she knows like the deepest of your minds, and she'll go in and like tear someone apart from the inside.
Yeah.
Like, by getting to what irks them.
Christina, what about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think she's more powerful, at least at her current position as Seelie Queen. And like Camille is like a minor inconvenience, and she's really hot. I'm sorry, but I think like described really hot. So like I wouldn't like mind like hello. But like the Seelie Queen freaks me out because she was like, I know everything about you and everything about your family and everything, and I will like destroy you. And I'm just like, sorry. I'll go to Camille now.
We're getting a lot of questions about Alec and Magnus, who are not in like the beginning of the book, but nearing the end, they start to have more of a role, and we see this other plot line developing between them. So I'm curious on how you guys feel about like where they are in their relationship and sort of like Alec's reactions to learning more about Magnus's past.
I think that, I mean, it's like their first like big fight. So I think that he's probably reacting right because he's thinking about the future and like what's going to happen in 100 years. Will Magnus forget him and this and that? But I do think, I don't know, I think he's kind of overreacting a bit because he's known Magnus has been with many other people. He's old. He's been with hundreds and hundreds of people, and he knew that. And I just think that meeting one of his exes kind of put him over the edge, and like it was kind of his breaking point.
That's a really good point. I never really thought about how it's not just the thought of Magnus being with other people, but it's actually meeting someone that he's been with, and also getting more information about Magnus for that person. Because like, you know, at this point in the story, Camille knows Magnus so much better than Alec does. And I think that feeds into even more of his insecurity because he feels like he would never have the level of intimacy with Magnus that Magnus has had with other people that are also immortal.
I think it's also like probably his first serious relationship. But I think he's just kind of unsure about the whole process, and he's doubting himself.
I think with me, I've always understood Alec's thoughts. Like, his insecurities, I think, are really valid. I remember what it's like to be 18 and feel threatened by your current significant other's exes. And Alec has this on like times like 800 scale. And so I think his thoughts and his feelings and his fears are all really valid because, you know, like as people who are mortal, like we don't really think about the fact, like beyond the fact that like, okay, they might live a couple extra years later than me. Like Magnus will go on and he will have full relationships that Alec and him have an expiration date because of Alec being mortal. And I don't think that's something Alec ever really considered in the way that Magnus does. And so I think that his thoughts are really valid, but I definitely don't agree on the way he lashes out to Magnus and like starts making it all about like, oh, what aren't you into? Like there's a cute boy over there. Why don't you go flirt with him? Like I think his thoughts are totally understandable, but his actions are just like very, they're not good.
Mhm.
I feel like we've seen that in the past too, like the way he lashed out at Clary in City of Bones when he was jealous of Jace.
I think he's a little bit impulsive.
Yeah.
Christina, what do you think?
Yeah, but his actions aren't right. But I think the insecurity we're talking about also has to come with his identity, because now he is dating Magnus. He's finally like accepted, I am attracted to men, and then to find out that Magnus is not only attracted to men but also women, and perhaps he might have dated something else that he doesn't even know it existed like 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think he feels really threatened by that just because he's trying to accept himself, and he perhaps saw himself in Magnus like liking guys, and then if Magnus doesn't only like guys, that throws him off as well. So like seeing actually not only knowing that perhaps she might have dated, but like seeing Camille like an actual female, like Jace gets loads of girls all the time, but he never like actually gotten somebody. And to see Magnus like at least know that Magnus has dated this like female probably throws him off even further if it would have been a guy that Magnus had dated, I believe at least.
I totally agree. I just, I do think that Magnus really handled it with grace, like with all the years of like wisdom and experience he has. Like he was like, go have your fit. Like I'm not dealing with this right now. Like this is, I have so many better things to do than to deal. Like, you know, the way that he just like brushes off like Alec's insults and like mean comments. I think he could have been mean back and he wasn't. And I think that's just like a testament to his character, that he's like not interested in like petty arguments and stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see what other questions. So the first time you were reading this, did you guys have any guesses on what was happening with Jace when he was distant with Clary? Because I did not expect that it would have to do with him being brought back from the dead, like at all. Like I feel like I just like accepted that happened in City of Glass, and then I moved on. And then I was like,
yeah,
what? This is happening again? This is a thing? This is important?
What? Yeah, I feel like I almost forgot about it because I was thinking of his issues that he had in the last book in the series.
Yeah.
But yeah, I forgot about this completely. I was like, my poor baby was brought back from the dead and he's struggling.
I thought, I mean, when I was first reading, like up until like the first half of the book, I was like, oh, he's just having like a little temper tantrum. He's like been doing this for like the first 3 books. And then once I like kept reading and I was like, oh my God, this is something more. And I like started to feel bad for thinking that he was having a temper tantrum, and I was annoyed with him, and I felt bad.
I thought it was somehow connected to like the Herondale lineage, because I was like, they're sisters and brother. Okay, no, they're not. But like now he's in Herondale. This probably has some issues too. Like how is this going to make this impossible now? But I didn't think like it was what it actually was. I was just like, this is another family issue.
Yeah. That's just what Cassandra Clare always does. She's like, oh, things are getting a little cool for a while. Let's just throw in some really complex families. Just how do you guys feel about like Jason Clary's relationship in this book in general? Because it's just like, it's so frustrating. And it's so like, the first few times when I read this book, I literally was like, I could feel my body like internally cringing at the thought of it, because I'm like, I don't want to sit through all of this like tension. So how do you guys feel about like, you know, what was happening with Jace and all the time that we didn't know what was happening with him? Like, what are your thoughts on just like the whole Lilith influence and how it influences Clary in general?
I thought they were gonna break up for a little bit. That's what I would have done because it was getting too much. But I think Clary was confused, really confused. She, I think it like you could definitely see in the book that it was affecting her like deeply, and it was just like I don't think she would have like gone into the demon house if it wasn't like for Jace, if that kind of makes sense. Like, yeah.
I was like, oh, continue.
I just feel like there's a lot of contradictions in this story with how they don't want to hurt each other, but they're like avoiding each other, and then they're the reason that they're hurting each other. And Jace, he's struggling. And I'm like, this is not good. But I love at the beginning of the book where we see their relationship and how they've just been going for 6 weeks, and she's like, oh, I thought this would get old, but it doesn't. And I'm like, yes, we need more of that.
The beginning was so cute. I know for me, like, I feel like the more I read this book, the more I'm like intrigued by their dynamic in the story, because like Jace is ignoring Clary because he feels that like she deserves better than him because of like these dreams, and he's afraid that like, you know, it's a lot also rooted in his insecurity, similar to Alec. He's afraid that like Clary is too good for him, and he's afraid that like whatever is affecting him, you know, he thinks it's like his family drama or whatever. He doesn't want that to touch Clary, and that's why he distances himself. And personally, like I always say, my boyfriend is so similar to Jace because my boyfriend reacts the same way, where he's like, if he's like getting down on himself, he distances himself. So like I get Jace's perspective completely in this book. It just makes me so angry because like so much of this could have been solved if they had just like talked about it and like not just like made out like horn dogs the second they saw each other and like just had a conversation, because when they had the conversation, like things were getting somewhere and it was gonna get better. And so like that, it's just frustrating. I'm just angry when I read this book because it's so like so many things in this book. It's so unnecessary. Not like as a reflection on like Cassie's part, like she's writing unnecessary things, but the characters' actions are so unnecessary. Christina, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, flipping through the book, I'm just like, why won't you communicate? Now here's a great opportunity to communicate. Oh, okay, you kissed me 30%. That's great. Now let's talk. Okay, you run away. Great. Like I truly understand like Jace, and like I distance myself too. Like when I get down from my friends, like I don't want to push it on. Like you have to communicate, and it's really hard to realize that. Like I usually do it like a week after, but not like 300 pages of no. I'm not going to waste it on no. And it's so frustrating because you're just like, talk, please, like write. I don't know, just get it through, because like when they talk, it's lovely. Like finally we get somewhere, but no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. We could, while on the subject of Clary and Jace, we could also talk about the ending. Just because I don't want to forget about this. Like, I don't want to get to the end of the live show and be like, oh my God, we didn't talk about the ending. How do you feel about what happens in the very end? Because we have one person here that doesn't know where this goes from here, right?
Yeah. Well, okay, I kind of do. Okay. Because a year or two ago, I was like, oh, I'm never going to read this series. Let me just Google how it ends.
Oh, no.
But I've kind of forgotten a lot of things.
Okay, good.
But I just know Jace is going to put it on himself, and I feel like he's just going to distance himself again. And I'm worried that his patterns in this book, like his behaviors, is going to go on to the next few books, because he's going to put Sebastian like on himself, like this is all his fault. Mm-hmm. And then I'm kind of worried because they're tied together now. Mm-hmm. Because they can't kill Sebastian without killing Jace. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, I always forget the book just ends at like Sebastian being revived and like them being bonded. Like all we know at this point is that there's some kind of bond between them, and we have no idea what happens after, because it's like, you know, when I read these books, they merge together. Like I don't recognize where one book ends because it's just one continuous story. But like, what a cliffhanger to not know what happens next. Like, there's just, is Sebastian like gonna be in New York? Like, are they going to be like, how does this play in? Like, are they going to be in hiding? It's so.
And then I think of Clary's. Then I think of Clary's mother, and she's going to be so heartbroken because I don't think, does she know that Jonathan's alive? I forgot.
I'm pretty sure that at this point, no one knows that. I mean, like, Clary and Simon saw that like Sebastian was in that coffin, but I'm pretty sure that because we only see them, like we only see him like revived from Jace, I'm pretty sure they only know that like his body was saved. I don't think, at least, I mean, if Kayla and Christina, if you want to input on this as well, I'm pretty sure they just know that like his body exists, because I think Simon says that they weren't able to complete the ritual. So I think that they just think that, you know, the body is there and he's not like, there was the potential for him to be revived, but there was no, you know, there was no confirmation that he's anything more than a corpse still. Do you guys feel the same?
I think so. All the books are kind of like mushing together in my mind right now.
I'm just worried she's going to take it too hard and it's going to be too much for her.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times when we think of Sebastian, we think of his relation to like Clary and Jace. And also, you know, I think we forget about like Izzy and Alec too, with what Sebastian did to their family. But we all, I feel like it's so easy to surpass like Jocelyn's connection to him as well, because it's so crucial to the story is, you know, the fact that he's also Jocelyn's child. But I think we focus on Clary and Jace more than we think about Jocelyn.
Yeah, but it affected Jocelyn so much. I mean, we remember that scene in the morgue where she goes to see the infant, and I'm like, oh, like even after all these years, it's still tearing her up.
Yeah, it's so terrible. But yeah, I think the ending is just like so wild. And like, you know, we do say in the community it's a filler book, but like the ending sets up so much for the rest of the series. Like, yeah, like this book, like maybe it's not the most interesting plot compared to like the other books and whatnot. And maybe it's just more full of tension than anything. But like this book has to exist for the rest of the series to continue. Like that last couple of chapters is so crucial. So, you know, my perspective has always been like, it was worth it. Like it was worth it to make it through all the just to get to this ending.
Yeah.
I remember like when I read the Bond thing, because it ends really there. I don't think this is a spoiler, but just because my native language is Swedish, so when I read like just English words, I translate them very literal. So like a bond, I was literally thinking like they are bonded like together. So I was like, this doesn't seem that great.
Oh, that sounds so complicated.
Yeah. But yeah.
Let me see what other questions we have. And again, if you guys have anything that you want to bring up, like go for it. Let me see. Oh, I just saw a really good one, but now I can't find it. Fudge, what was I gonna say? Some people are mentioning the Mark of Cain. So what do you guys think about Simon having the Mark of Cain and how we like see how that affects him in the book? Because I know with me, like I always thought it would be like so shocking to see like someone try to attack you and like not only like feel fear in that situation, like yeah, he knows that he can't get hurt, but like still like being confronted by a stranger, that's a scary thing. And Simon's he's still just adjusting to being a vampire, let alone being indestructible. No, being a vampire, being able to walk around in light, and also being indestructible. So, you know, I always think it's just like so jarring to think about like watching someone try to shoot you and then just watching them like explode into salt. But I think it definitely like it has an impact on Simon where like he obviously doesn't want this, but it's really difficult, you know, to just think about like all the stuff he's probably internalizing because he feels like it's his fault, even if it's not, you know, he has no control over it.
Yeah. I really love the biblical references with it, though. I thought that was a really cool because you don't normally think of like marks with the Bible, but it goes together so well. And so I really enjoyed that and how it affected him, because they say it's a curse, it's a curse, and everyone's like, no, we can use it as a weapon, but he really is like affected. Like by the first time he gets attacked and the person turns into salt, he like freaking out, like starts vomiting. I'm like, I can't imagine witnessing that.
Oh, speaking of Bible, just like real quick, something I love in this book is when Lilith and Jace are fighting, and he's like, you and your name dropping, like the angel Raziel did my hair. It's so funny. So funny.
I think that like Simon, he's so young, and I think for me at least, when I'm reading books, I always forget about the character's age, and I always forget that they're so young, and then having to deal with all of that, it just puts so much weight on him. And I can't imagine, like, I mean, obviously can't imagine being a vampire, but having all of that like drama with it, I feel so bad for him.
How do you guys oh, Christina, were you gonna say something?
Well, I was going to say, because rereading it, I didn't think about like Simon's, because like before I was like, poor Simon, everything is like going wrong for Simon. But reading it, I thought about Clary, because it feels like Clary takes a lot of like the responsibility, of course, of the mark, but it also allowed her to kind of focus on Jace, because she didn't have to like spend as much time with Simon, because she could know that he was safe. But it also like put a weight extra on Simon, because like I have to be strong for Clary's sake, because like I can't go to Clare and like complain that the mark is turning people to salt and I don't really want this mark anymore, please. So like it felt like it put a strain on their relationship, which I didn't notice.
Yeah, totally. I actually forgot about that until you mentioned it. Like there's this oh god, I can't remember the scene at all. But there's one moment where it's like Clary or Simon realizes that they're not paying as much attention to each other because of all the stuff that's going on. And like Simon isn't telling Clary what's going on with like these people in gray tracksuits coming after him. And Clary isn't telling Simon about what's going on with Jace, like with him being distant and stuff. So it's like not only do we have Clary and Jace not like interacting with each other, we also have Simon and Clary not communicating. There's so much angst.
I also noticed while reading, Clary mentioned, I think it was Clary who mentioned that her and Simon have seen each other every day. So it's weird to go a day without seeing Simon. And then I noticed a lot when they're on the phone, they'll say, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. And then they wouldn't see each other tomorrow. And then they'd say, oh, I'll see you tomorrow. And I kind of noticed there that their friendship was like not like coming apart, but there was distance between them.
Yeah, it was a little strained. It was a little strained throughout this book. Speaking of friendships, though, how do you guys feel about Clary and Izzy? Because I feel like their relationship starts to really solidify in this book. Because I love how Clary calls Isabel. Like, she could have called a lot of people. She could have called Luke. She could have called Simon. She could have called, I mean, she really could have called Alec, but like Alec probably would have went to his parents. Like, she had people to call, but like she chose Izzy because she trusted her. And I really like how like Izzy has this like girl talks with her, like, are you using protection? Do you need anything? She's like the mom from Mean Girls. And like this is like just so dumb and random, but I love how like after Izzy comes in and like attacks the demon at the church, she's like, damn girl, what have you gotten yourself into now? Like I feel like their friendship is just like light and fluffy. And also I like how when Izzy and Claire, like Izzy tells Clary about Simon also seeing Maya, and Clary doesn't look surprised. So Izzy's like, you knew, didn't you? And Clary's like, I should have told you, I'm sorry. And she's like, no, I understand. Like, you know, he's your best friend. Like it would have been weird if you like didn't know. So I just feel like they are on a different level of understanding than they were in the first 3 books, especially with Izzy saying like, I hope Jason and my family move away from you. Like that scene has always stuck with me, that I'm like, that's so mean to say. But though I do understand, but like I like to see how they've grown together, and they're more of like a supportive, encouraging girl friendship now.
Yes, I love seeing how far they've come. especially like in the first book, Isabel was used to being the only girl, and I feel like they kind of are really wary of each other at the beginning, but like girls gotta stick together.
Yeah.
So I love their little friendship in this one.
They're so cute. I love them.
Yeah, I think it's like leveled out because like before Claire, they were either like annoyed with each other, and like Claire was like afraid of how girly and like beautiful, according to like a lot of the male gaze, Isabel is, and he was like, I can't wear your dress, like this isn't the dress, this is like, what even is this? But like how they're like actually started to talk with each other, communicating. We have this lovely thing, and like actually becoming friends and like creating something that's really awesome to see continue to grow as well.
I sense you like it when characters talk to each other.
Yeah, communicating is great.
I do too.
I didn't think much of their friendship this book. I mean, I thought about it more last book towards the end when like they were talking more. I noticed that the friendship was like stronger there. So while reading this book, I just kind of overlooked it. But like now that I hear y'all talking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, wait, that makes sense.
I feel like that happens a lot in the book. There are just like, there's so many big plot lines happening that sometimes it's hard to recognize like the sweet little moments that like are so normal. Like us supporting girls, that should be a normal thing. Like we miss it, and we don't get to appreciate it as much because we have family drama, thought they were siblings, like people trying to kill them every 2 seconds. That like this stuff gets lost. But those are some of my favorite things about the book. They're just like, they're so cute and precious, and I love them together. Let me see what other questions. We have a few questions about Lilith. How did you guys feel about Lilith? I think she's a great villain.
I have a lot of feelings about Lilith, especially as I have religion right now. So I've like read a lot about Lilith because like
spill the tea.
So like all of like, I think we just like puts her off as a villain, but like she wanted children so badly, and a lot of people don't really recognize that. So like weirdly enough, rereading it, I felt for her when she was talking about Sebastian, because like that is her only successful like alive child, and she's wanted children for like longer than we can imagine. And like the reason why she was banned from heaven, so to say, or like the paradise, was that she refused to be under Adam. Like she wanted to be equal, and like that's something all people fight for today, but a lot of people don't know that backstory. So like I weirdly enough look up to her, but perhaps not to all of her demons.
I love your perspective. Yeah, I think she's a really good like. She causes so much chaos in this book. That's the catalyst for so much. I love this comment that says, I hate Lilith, but she's a low-key feminist queen. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I totally agree. But yeah, she just causes so many problems, and it's like, she's so good at it. But I always love the ending. Where like Simon like runs in front of Clary as Lilith. I always forget that Lilith like tortures Clary. Like there's so much happening at the end of the book, and I feel like every time I reread it, I'm just like waiting for that like last scene. I always forget that Lilith is literally torturing Clary, and that's a big deal. And I just love how like Simon runs in front of her so that the lash hits Simon, and that's how Lilith is like dispelled and just evaporates into a million little pieces. I just always thought that was so clever. I always forget that Clary is tortured, and I forgot until the second.
It's so hard to read. There was a lot of parts of this book that were like cringy to read. Not cringy, but like it was hurtful. Like when she puts the mark on like the dead Nephilim, and I'm just like, this is so terrible.
That's a really tough scene too. Man. See, we forget about so many things because we're just so concerned about Clary and Jace not talking to each other.
I know for me, this is really, really bad, but I always kind of like skip over fight scenes, but like not skip, I'll like skim read.
I've done the same thing a million times.
I'm not the biggest, I love like reading fight scenes, but they're so repetitive to me. So I kind of forgot about Lilith.
I totally know what you mean. I've been there a million times. Let's see if we have any other questions before we close out this live show. Let's see. I feel like we've covered so much, but there's also so much in this book that we just like forget about. You know what I mean? Like literally what we just said. Let me see. I'm trying to find the questions. Let's see. Oh, we can talk about Maureen.
Oh yeah.
How do you guys feel about Maureen and how her character develops in this book?
I feel bad for her.
Yeah, I feel really bad for her.
She's so innocent at the beginning. I'm like, she doesn't deserve this.
I always thought it was so interesting how, like, we have this, like, offhanded comment in the very beginning of the book about how, like, people think that, like, Maureen tells everyone that she's Simon's girlfriend. And then later that, like, that one tiny, like, offhanded comment becomes another really important part of the story because, like, I guess, I don't even know, like, how it really came to be, but, like, I guess Lilith, like, heard that Maureen was his girlfriend, and, like, that's who they took. Like, they didn't even go after Izzy or Maya or Clary, like, Maureen.
Because they weren't dating.
Mm-hmm. So I always thought that was so interesting how, like, she seems so insignificant, but, like, you know, Simon biting her for the first time and her being caught, it was just so unexpected.
That's just like Cassandra Clare's writing. Every little detail is important. We forget.
Absolutely.
I think
so
that
much as we're going through.
I think she's gonna secretly enjoy being a vampire.
Yeah.
I think that she was innocent at first, but she's not gonna take being a vampire as like a curse or anything. She's gonna like embrace it and love being a vampire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also really interesting because we see her so innocent because she's a 13-year-old little girl, you know? And so having her at the end of the book where she's like, she still preserves this air of innocence and, you know, she's like skipping around in her frilly little dress and she's like, I can be young and beautiful forever. But like she also like bares her teeth at that one guy who calls Simon like her sister or whatever. Yeah, I think that it's really interesting that like this little kid, like a day into being a vampire or so, is like already caught up in all of this chaos with this super powerful vampire. You know what I mean? It's really interesting. All right. Do we have any last minute questions or any last minute comments from you guys? I feel like we've discussed so much.
I know.
The one thing that gets me in these live shows is like I literally just like we get through so much in just like an hour of talking about this book that I feel like we just like cover everything. All right, but I think that really finishes up this live show. So thank you guys so much for watching and for contributing in the discussion. We loved all of your questions. And of course, thank you so much to my lovely co-hosts for joining me and talking about it with me. If you want to check out any of Kayla, Megan, or Christina's channels, all of those are linked below. And you definitely will want to keep an eye out because the next book we're going to be discussing is Clockwork Prince. That live show will probably be a little bit sooner than normal because I just like push this one back so much. I'm sorry. But yeah, so the next book we're going to be reading officially with the read along is Clockwork Prince, and we will be having another live show on this channel. If you want to learn more about it and find out how you can participate, all of the information for the read along is in the description of this video. But thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you next time for another live show. Bye!
Thanks for having us.